You do not want to miss this episode. We're going to dig into how to renovate an income property. What's it cost? What are the steps? What to watch out for? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound with Darren Mitchell. I'm your host, and joining me as always, Christina Wyatt, wealth coach at Control and Compound. Christina, how are you?
Hey, Darren, I'm doing awesome. Super excited for our guest today. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and this was a guest that you met at the multifamily conference, and he was easy to identify. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can probably figure out. For those of you listening, he doesn't have a big growth coming out of his head. That's not what we're talking about. But Christina, why don't you introduce Mark for us?
Yeah, absolutely. But before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, you're going to want to subscribe and leave that 5-star review. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you always know when new content's coming out. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Control and Compound on TikTok and Instagram. So super excited to get into this and introduce you to Mark Yataco. And I'll tell you, he was an easy to miss there, and that's all due to the hat. So Mark, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself and tell us about the taco hat that you've got on.
Okay, it's a great question. So for those that are listening, I am wearing a giant taco hat on my head. It's a taco. I think there's some guacamole and cheese, and it's a beef taco. So my last name is Yataco. I was in the military for 15 years with the Canadian Reserves, and kind of in the Army, we all go by our last names, and as the last names started to get shorter and turned into nicknames, my last name Yataco nicknamed into Hard Taco, and then it was just Taco. And a lot of my inner circle is still my military friends, so they all call me Taco. One day my wife was at a party store. She bought this hat as a joke for me to wear when we went to Vegas, and I wore it, and the hat obviously created some popularity, allowed a lot of people to talk to me, and then I started using it for networking events, and that's kind of how the hat came to be. It was a joke my wife regrets, I guess.
That is fantastic. So Mark, you own a renovation company called the Multifamily Reno Group. Tell me, how long have you been a contractor? When did you get into the contracting business?
So I started renovations 20 years ago. I was helping my dad, who had a small little renovation company, on the weekends. And then I started realizing, one, I was handy. Two, I was picking up the stuff pretty quick, and the pay was way better than an office job. So I pivoted, and then I eventually left my corporate job, moved to the renovation side of things, and I started doing private homes, like started backsplashes, moved to bathrooms. I kept growing. I love to, keep pushing that line, and I grew, and then I met a real estate investor, and he asked me to do a project for him, and he was asking me if I wanted to be his painter or his tile, because he knew as a contractor, everybody's a contractor. So he asked me to do a project. It was a 20-unit building that he had got under contract, and he had a couple vacancies, and he wanted me to take on the whole thing. I put together a budget for the entire project, and then I started with the first one, and then I did the second one and the third one, and then it kind of, as he kept growing and buying more buildings, I kept scaling my renovation business. So I wasn't investing in real estate, but I was working with an investor, like, to purchase the properties, buy the properties, going through all of his processes and helping him professionalize the reno side of things. And I just kept going and going and going. We've been in this industry 15 years, specifically focused on real estate investors. My first real estate investment project was a building, a 20-unit apartment building, and we've only been scaling in the apartment building space. We do duplex, triplexes. I've done lots of flips, but that is kind of like our specialty, and that's kind of how long we've been doing this, for about 15 years, just in the real estate investment space.
Wow. So you specialize on income properties or investment properties. What makes a renovation different for an investment property versus a renovation at the house? What are the key kind of differences you look at from your end, or you should be looking at from an investor's end?
So I look at it no different than kind of how you borrow money, right? Investors don't just borrow money from anywhere. It has to match their investment strategy. So if you're going to borrow short-term money, right, it's going to cost you different than long-term money. And then same with the renovations. If you're doing a short-term renovation like a flip, It needs to be as cheap as possible, it needs to be as cheap as possible, but look as good as possible so that you could get the most out of it and that you could sell it. It doesn't need to last because you're not going to hold on to it, but it needs to look good enough that a person purchasing the property isn't going to come after you for cheaping out. And then a long-term investment, something you're going to hold for 10, 20 years, well, that material needs to last, within that 10 to 20 years, or what is the life cycle of the material you are purchasing? You need to know that stuff. What's the repairability of the product? Because if you're holding it for 20 years, there's going to be maintenance along the way. And if you're installing product, for example, this is the most common case I hear is, everybody goes to the big box stores, buys the clearance floor, like the laminate floor that's like 99 cents. They go there, they buy it, they put it in their unit. 5 years down the road, they have some floor damage. They go back to that big box store, that floor doesn't exist. So now to do that repair, they got to redo the floor because the other floor doesn't exist anymore because they bought it super cheap. Where we focus on stuff that I know my vendors are going to keep and carry forever, so that in 5 years from now, you got to go to repair the floor, I can give you the 2 or 3 pieces or the one box. And that's kind of how I look at the renovations, and I look at like that in all facets, like handles, doors, kind of every little thing. And because I've spent a lot of time working with real estate investors and just being in the space and being a real estate investor myself, I look at what is your strategy, what is your goal, and your reno should match that. And a lot of contractors, they just worry about their pocket. They're not in it for you. They're not trying to help you. They're not trying to see your goal. When I became a contractor and I did the project with that first client, the huge difference to me between a homeowner and a real estate investor is if you're successful, you're going to keep buying more properties, which means you're going to give me more units. I was like, you guys are the Netflix subscribers of contracting. As long as I can produce a good product, you're going to keep watching or giving me units. Why would I go to the homeowner model where every homeowner I have to, sit with, deal with? They're very emotional about their product because it's their personal home, it's their life that they've worked hard towards. Sure, you can charge them more, but there's a lot more back and forth, and it's a lot more difficult to scale that way. So I pivoted to the real estate investor. I'm helping investors get through their project, like manage their budgets. A lot of clients, when I talk to them about the reno budgets, I ask them, I'm like, how did you come up with your reno budget? They're like, I just asked a couple people and I added 20-30% and that's my reno budget. And like, that's not the way to do. Like, we don't run our math on the mortgages, on the numbers like that at all. But in this teeny tiny little space that we do in real estate investing, everybody uses that formula. So I figured I'd start really talking about it and focusing on how we can, improve it in the networking and the groups. Like, everyone's so helpful in the community. So I figured I'd put my 2 cents in, and it's been going incredible, and I think everybody's enjoying the content that we're creating.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I don't think it's a teeny tiny space in real estate investing. It's actually huge. It's just kind of getting overlooked. And when we started chatting and you were telling me about releasing this content to real estate investors, it's huge. Like, it's awesome. And that's why we wanted to get you on our show, because we've got so many listeners that are real estate investors. And I don't think that they might know who to ask the questions to, right? They're looking for that local contractor and they're just going with the flow, the 20%, the 30%. So I'm excited that we get to kind of drill into some questions and ask you some questions that we might not always get the answers to when we're working with general contractors. So do you mind if I got one here that I want to jump into on the quoting side? So why are reno quotes all over the place? Why is that? Why aren't they the same?
So renovation quotes are all over the place because, like you said, contractors are kind of overlooked. Nobody's really studying the contractor. We're spending lots of time studying buildings and studying mortgages and kind of all of that stuff. So one of the biggest problems is the barrier of entry, right? The barrier of entry to be a contractor is I can go to the dollar store or Home Depot, pick up some tools, or a used store, right? Because one of the red flags is new tools that everybody says, right? So if I show up with old tools, I can buy tools at a discount, put them on, and I am more favorable to a person as a contractor because they're like, he's got old tools, he's experienced. The barrier of entry is zero. There's no barrier of entry. So anybody can be a contractor, and obviously as the demand kind of continues to go up with today's kind of environment for contractors. There's less and less of us. Um, that is one problem because there's all types of education on who is doing your quote. And the other thing is learning about the type of contractor. And this is some of the stuff that we're teaching on our platform and our courses that we're putting out is who is the contractor? The contractor that is, let's say, when I was just starting out, it was me and my dad and a truck. What is our overhead cost? What is our daily wage requirement to operate that business? It's super low. So, you scale that up to a guy now has 2 trucks, 3 trucks on the road. He's got the big insurance. He's going around, has lots of suppliers that he's dealing with. That guy's overhead is going to be a little bit more. Contractors that start to scale and become my size, I have a 10,000 square foot facility, we have 20, 30 contractors on the road, I have project managers, we have systems in place. My day-to-day operation cost is significantly higher than the father-son combo or the 2 best friend combos. So that's a huge difference. And I've heard this a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard this. Which contractor price do you pick? Not the high one, not the low one, shoot somewhere in the middle. That's not necessarily the case. I've hired every contractor, big guy, small guy, little guy, middle guy. It doesn't matter. I'm hiring and firing contractors on a regular basis. We need to look at contractors like artists. Contractors are like artists. There is an artist out there that is making millions and millions of dollars, has an art gallery, selling tons of paint. There is also an artist out there who is on the streets doing chalk art for free with a little hat on the side, just looking for money. And those guys are artists. One isn't better than the other. They just operate different business models, right? So, and it's the exact same thing. If we could take that kind of a lens and apply that to contractors, that's the same kind of thing. So it's not about the high guy, it's not about the little guy, it's about understanding who the guy is and what their capacity is going to be able to take on your project. If you're doing an apartment building, you don't want to go with the father-son team because they're not going to have the volume or the capacity to take on 10 units, 5 units, 6 units, 3 units. If you go to a bigger guy like our projects, we want to be in the 5+ units ideally, or we're handling 10, 20 duplex conversions, right? We can do high volume, we can handle a lot of work. So depending on the size of the contractor and the type of project you need, that is how I would choose my contractor. And the pricing, it's always going to be all over the place, and it doesn't mean that just because it's a low number doesn't mean it's a bad guy, right? Or an unskilled guy or not a professional guy. It doesn't mean it's not, but that is definitely why quotes are all over the place.
Yeah, I always thought quotes all over the place too, where guys are busy. And I had a painting company when I was 19 years old. Now again, I'm not equating that to with contracting today, but the busier I was, the higher the quotes went up for. Because like, I'm too busy to do this, I'm going to give him a high quote, and then it's like, oh, holy crap, he said yes. Oh, great, I'm going to do that one. And then just how busy you are. I think some people just get too busy and just throw these throwaway quotes. But I love that, Mark, customizing it for the investor. So let's kind of dig into best practices. So a lot of real estate investors listening to this, if you would suggest, like, what are the strategies they should be using to optimize the money they're putting into the building, right? Like what, a granite countertop in a B or C level market rental is probably not going to fly. But what strategies do you help investors optimize their dollars to get the most bang for their buck?
So like, I'll go and I'll walk through apartments or I'll review people's quotes, whether it's online or in person, and I kind of help you define. The first thing I find like investors are making the biggest mistake on is their scope of work. They don't really necessarily have a good scope of work, and if you don't have a good detailed scope of work, you're asking an artist to draw, I want like a cat maybe with like some orange hair and like whiskers, and then like, well, like how big is the cat, how like how many, what do you want in the background? Like there's lots of detail that goes into a renovation. So I help investors focus on their strategy, their investment strategy, and how that looks to the project that they're working on. Whether it's is it layout, what is the area, are you trying to hit high rent, or are you just trying to get this thing rented? Two different things, two different completely outcomes, right? Are you doing an Airbnb? An Airbnb in a BC area would still require granite countertops, right? You still need that like sexy vibe that Airbnbs do, right? Like those Instagram walls and stuff like that. Like so it's completely different, and that's kind of what I'm helping investors and stuff focus on is there's no one solution, I guess, which is why it's difficult to speak to the renovation aspect. I can't say this is the cookie cutter solution. There isn't. Every area is kind of different, and what you're trying to achieve is different and unique based on each investor's journey. And that is why I think I've been so successful with what I'm doing is I'm not looking at you as just a client. I'm not trying to sell you floor. I'm not trying to sell you a renovation. Voice rooms, it's everything. It's like real life networking, no different. Like you and I can have a conversation, or we could be in the room and we could all be having a conversation. And it's what a lot of the younger generation is using. I love gaming. I play a lot of video games on my computer. That's how I understood this thing, and I was really confused why nobody else knew about it. But I think it's where, the newer investors are going to be more in tune with Discord. But it's a simple app to use. It's not complicated. You could YouTube how to use it, but it's definitely where I think you're going to get the most value out of being in a community together, because the application is designed for community.
Yeah, well, we're all about investing in yourself and being around like-minded people, joining communities. So if you go to Discord, what do you need to search in order to find your group, and what are the different levels they can join?
So on Discord, Discord's an app you can download like WhatsApp, Instagram, or whatever. If you go on my Talk About Investing platform, or you DM me, like directly on Instagram, YouTube, any of my things, I will send you a link, and you click on the link, and it'll take you to the app to download it, and it'll automatically add you to my community. And then within our community, so memberships have different colors. So instead of just showing up as numbers, you can have your own like name, and then it'll be colorized. So we have like architects are, like a red, contractors are blue, mortgage agents, they're green, and everybody's broken out. So at least whoever is replying, you're kind of getting a sense of who that person is, whether you've ever met them or not met them, but at least